This
Wow.
is what Trump was talking about, and I don't care if you like Trump or not, it's irrelevant. There's two systems of the judicial system. Those for the system for the rich that can pay and buy themselves out of it, and the system for the poor that gets money extracted out of them and their trust that they don't even know they have.
But before we get started, folks, make sure you hit the pause button. Okay, go down below. There's a Rumble link. Go over to Rumble and follow us over there. QFS1776.com is, without question, the holy grail of what's to come. Okay, T-shirts. You got to get yourself decorated. This way people will ask you, what is XRP? What is the quantum financial system? What is this? What is that? And you send them where? To QFS1776.com, where they need to immerse themselves, because we're going to burn down this system down to the ground. And out of the ashes will rise the phoenix. There'll be nothing to go back to. Believe me when I tell you that. Unified TV will take over Netflix. We're bringing in the next genre of movie producers and storytellers and actors and actresses. And we're telling the story of how the world is going to be on earth as it is in heaven. Jasara Nasara is coming. Don't make no mistake about it. Gold and silver right down below. Promo code Mel Carmine. Make sure you use the promo code. Almost $8 billion in sales. We're direct to like a bunch of mints. We are the ones that can get you the gold and silver directly to your door, okay, at the cheapest price. Don't even waste your time looking for a cheaper price. It doesn't exist. Also, our Telegram groups down below. If you want to learn what's coming and you're sort of a little scared, I understand. Believe me, I was there too at one point. Our Patriots are literally waiting for you in the room. And if you need more than $10,000 worth of XRP or $1 million worth of XRP, you come see me. Send me an email at QFS1776@gmail, and we'll get you as much as you want.
Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We thank you for stopping by to the XRP QFS team channel. My name is Scott Steele, sitting in on not the blue chair as Mel Carmine and Amber continue the world tour. If you don't know who I am, my name is Scott Steele. I'm a radio and television host from Los Angeles, California, who recently was in a car accident, almost ended my career. Used to be syndicated on about 280 stations around the world. Suffered a severe TBI. A lot of comments, about me being choppy in this. I apologize. I appreciate your patience. I'm about 6 weeks out of a intense 3-month brain treatment. So I am healing, but I am relearning how to talk and speak. And it's been an adjustment, and walk, by the way. But I appreciate your patience, and we're going to get through this. I'm having to start over. But the good news about this car accident is God wouldn't have led me here where I am today. If it wasn't for a good friend of mine, Kenny, that said, hey, you need to take a look at this XRP thing. And I started looking around, led to Mel. Mel and I became friends, and it's led me to interviewing this show, which I've gotten to interview some incredible people. And by the way, just a little pre-sell, I just got word that I'm going to be interviewing Versan from Black Swan Capital. And I have a 2-hour exclusive with XRP Lion with a new breakdown of what is happening in the XRP world very soon. So I look forward to doing that. Today's guest, though, which I'm really excited about because he brings a whole nother side to, how would I describe, the changes that are going on as the world continues to shift. It is so important that we arm ourselves with the knowledge of other things that are going around that you might, at first I said, whoa, what? And then I saw some of this gentleman's videos and I said, oh, and you find out some of the things that have been going on behind the scenes. And I don't mean just recently, since we were born and since our parents were born. And with that, I'd like to welcome, and please make him feel welcome in the chat. And by the way, I hate some of those podcasts say, oh, like and subscribe, If you get something from the podcast, we don't need you to subscribe, but if you'd hit that like button, if you learn something, we'd really appreciate it. It helps the algorithm and spread the word, and helps inform more people about what's going on. Ladies and gentlemen, in the comments, big hello to Mr. Ben Barlow. How are you, Ben?
Thank you, Scott. I'm doing fabulous.
Now that we got your computer fixed.
Yeah. We're setting up the podcast room. So I've got breakingbarlow.com as my podcast. It's Breaking Barlow Show. We're just getting ready to launch it. We've been working on that and a lot of content over the last probably 15 weeks. Well, it's going to
awesome.
be exciting. We're going to be bringing a lot of these things to you and discussing a lot of these things about community, family, your right, your life. Obviously, so many things to discuss. So,
well, hats off and congratulations to you for stepping up. I too was not thinking that I was ready to step back in front of the camera onto the microphone. But God put it in my heart that I needed to be here. And then the opportunity when Mel went on vacation to carry on. And you are going to tell us about some things. And by the way, again, I want to apologize to you. If you already know this gentleman and know a lot of this information, please be patient. A lot of our listeners don't know what's going on, and that's what we're here for. We want everybody to get the story. And Ben, tell us a little bit about you. And you started to tell me off the air about you and your daughter and your mom, and you guys are all in close quarters there in your neighborhood. But tell me how you kind of woke up to this. And was it XRP based, or you've been doing this for a while? As far as and you're going to tell us about how to become a sovereign citizen, why it makes sense.
Hold on. Sovereign citizen is not you. That's a term that was coined by the Obama administration through Eric Holder. People were claiming they were sovereign citizens, and there is no such thing as a sovereign citizen, because you can't be a sovereign and be a citizen at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Our fathers fought for our independence so that we could be sovereigns. They were fighting to not be citizens of Britain anymore. They wanted to be sovereign. They wanted to live free on the land. So that's where Eric Holder was going around all the attorney generals and all the sheriffs and all the police departments and teaching them how to deal with people that were claiming to be sovereign citizens. But you cannot be a sovereign and a citizen at the same time. It's all tied to our judicial system, how they've been handling them through the judicial system. So what you have to realize is that our founding fathers, fighting for our independence, they just wanted to live free on the land. And living free on the land meant freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of all these things. So while living free on the land, they didn't want a constitution. They wanted to just live free. That was what the whole war was about, was living free. But the bankers and the powers to be then the politicians forced a constitution upon them. So then while that constitution was forced upon them, the constitution does not apply to we the people. It applies to government and governmental agencies. And so when you say we've got a constitution, they can't do this, you have to realize that it doesn't apply to us, we the people. So I'm going to take you on a little road, a little journey, and we're going to realize just what applies to us and what doesn't apply to us. The Constitution applies to the government. It's what restrains the government. But while it restrained the government, it put in specific rights, the freedom of speech, the right and freedom to bear arms. There are certain things within the Constitution that had to be listed out as it applied to government so that they couldn't come back and take these rights away from us. So then... Okay. Go ahead.
Before we get too far down this path, because I want to hear the story, but I know you get excited about it. So do I, and I can listen to you. Just let you run. But tell people. Let's introduce you to the people first. And where'd you come from? How did you learn about this? And how did your knowledge about this unfold?
Okay, my name is Ben Barlow. I've got the Breaking Barlow podcast. How I got into this is I used to sit in politics with my stepdad as a young 8-year-old kid, watching Jimmy Carter, then to Reagan, then through every single president, and watching the chaos that went on. I'm 54 years old, so we got to watch going to the moon. We got to watch technology upgrades and everything advance to where we're at today. But I've always been in politics. I've always been what I would call a Republican. I don't call myself a Republican anymore. I'm a conservative. So with a liberal bent, so to speak.
Sure.
But I just think we all need to be free to make decisions. And so as from 8 years old all the way up to my early 20s, I didn't even vote until probably 19 years ago was the first time I ever voted, because in my mind, everything was rigged.
Right.
And so, but I'd been researching this stuff, Nasara Jasara, researching all the 13 families, researching what's going on in the world, all the world players, why do we go through all these wars? What's going on within the world? And the vast majority of us have been propagandized to where we believe a scenario or an agenda that's totally opposite of what's actually happening. So to get to where I'm at right now is I've got a daughter that's 27 years old. I fought through the judicial system because I was dating a girl. She got pregnant on purpose, thinking I would drop everything I'm doing. White picket fence is what she saw. And she decided to have the baby. At 3 years old, I took total custody away from her. And anybody who knows anything about the judicial system, fathers have no rights. It took me years to finally build up a case enough to be able to take my daughter from the mother, because she just wasn't taking care of her the way that I thought she should be taking care of her, with the amount of child support that I was paying. And the system is set up against men. So I just couldn't figure out, how is this judicial system holding me in chains while she's doing all these things to not necessarily break the law, but break the expectations of what the judge was expecting of her, where if I would have done everything she was doing, they would have thrown me in jail and taken away my rights from being able to even interact with my child. Ultimately, I won custody of my child, but I was dropping her off at daycare at 6:30 in the morning. I was picking her up at 6:45, 7 o'clock, 7:15 at night, paying $1 a minute for being late. They close at 6 o'clock, and you had to pay cash every single day. I was making so much money at the time after I went through a training period that I just came back to that somebody else is raising my daughter. Somebody else is putting their morals into her rather than mine. And I need to be there in her life. And so I moved back. That was down in Phoenix, Arizona. I moved back to Salt Lake City. I retired my mother. I had her to where my daughter could go to school. I moved her up here a year before I moved up here. She was in the school system coming home to my mother's house. Then I moved to Salt Lake and I bought a house 6 houses down across the street from her, from where I grew up. And I've been here now for 20 years. And so 20 years ago, when I moved here, we'd a bunch of friends of ours, we'd all get together every Friday, and there was 3 Democrats, 3 liberals within this group. And we all just are ball busters. But each week I would just shellac these guys about politics. And one of them asked me, he just said, Ben, after this had gone on for weeks and weeks and weeks and months, he said, Ben, can I ask you a question? I said, well, what's that, Drake? And Drake says, do you vote? And I said, no, the whole system's rigged. Why would I vote in a rigged system? He said, then shut the fuck up. And I'm like, okay, so for me to have a voice and for me to shellac you every week, all I got to do is go vote. I voted ever since, until this last election.
Right.
And I've known, and now we're finally realizing exactly what I believed back then. Everything's been rigged from the dawn of time to put their puppets, their players into the game. And none of these politicians are operating on our behalf. So where I got to where I'm at today is August of 2020. I had, actually April of 2020, my cousin had sent me a video of David Straight putting on a seminar, and he was talking about CPS and the court system. And it was only—
What is CPS?
Child Protective Services.
Okay.
Or Child Family Services, whatever it is in your state.
Okay.
And so CPS is who interacts with parents, but they don't have any rights to interact with parents. It's you believe they have all this power and they don't have any power. And so my cousin and I had been through a very similar situation where his kids got taken to New York. He didn't even have a relationship with his kids. They were adults. So he sent me this video and I was watching. I'm like, wow, you know what? As big as our family is, because I got a big family here in Salt Lake City. And so as big as our family is, we should fly this guy out and have him teach us all of this stuff, because we could really help people with this information. He said, well, that's a good idea. That was April of 2020. July of 2020, his brother, unbeknownst to either of us, sent me an invite event for David Straight in August of 2020 that was coming to Riverton, Utah. So I'm a big elk hunter. I had been planning a hunt for a year and a half. I have $20,000 tied up into this hunt. And 3 days before this seminar, I called up my friends who I'd been planning this with, because you go up a week before, you find the elk, then you go hunt the elk.
Mhm.
So I called them up 3-4 days before and said, hey, I got to go to this seminar. They were pissed because it's a lot of work to go set up for this elk hunt. And so I said, I have to go, but I will be up there. It's a 3-day seminar. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll be up there as soon as it gets done. And so they said, okay. So I went to the seminar, and Sunday they called me and said, hey, are you coming up? And I said, no, I'm not coming up. All that money was lost. I didn't even care. I went to it and I learned. I had already known a lot of the things that he was teaching in the seminars, but I didn't know that our government and all governments around the world, I knew I didn't know that that was the #1 harvest in the drugs in America. They blame it on the cartels. The government's the cartel. Let's face it. The government is the largest cartel, whether it's drugs, whatever it is, it's governments around the world are involved in this.
And how did you learn? And what was your, what was your confirmation that you knew that this, and this were happening? I mean, obviously, you intuitively, you felt it.
Researching for 20 plus years, all of this information at tunnels that are underground.